Oh my gosh, it's time for another installment of Blackboard Rules. Well folks, you better buckle up your seatbelts because we're gonna rock that intro. Pow! Hey, welcome back. Bruce here again for Blackboard Rules. Today we're going to be talking about my tips on how to be a successful musician or performer. Now there's quite a few, so we're going to divvy this up into two parts. So the part you're watching right now is the first part, but make sure you look for the second part so you can get the rest of the information. So let's jump right into it. The first point I want to share with you today, and I think it's really one of the most important, is be on time. And that means that if you've got a gig somewhere, whether it's a studio session or a live date, make sure that you show up with plenty of time. You know, there's an old saying out there that goes like this: if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, forget about it. Everybody respects people who arrive on time. See, that way you can fix any problems or issues that might arise, whether it be, hey, you know, I forgot this important piece of gear that I needed to bring, or geez, there's a problem with the sound, so I need to take a little extra time here and fix things. And also what it does too is before your gig, if you've got everything set up and you have that window of time available, guess what? You can take a minute and actually kind of relax, get focused and centered for the task that you are about to do. Number two, make sure you have good, reliable gear. Now you notice I didn't say the most expensive gear. I said the most reliable gear. So what we're talking about here is gear that you can depend on. Gear that consistently gives you a good tone, and gear that doesn't give you any like electrical problems. So for example, if you have a guitar, you want a guitar that stays in tune, that has good pickups on it, that will perform and not let you down. If you have a keyboard, you want to have a keyboard that has current sounds as well as maybe some older vintage sounds. If you have drum set, you want drums that stay in tune, that have a nice tone to them, that you can either play live or record well. Now another kind of addition to this having reliable gear is make sure you have cases for your stuff. Cases are worth their weight in gold. For those new players who are starting out, cases can sometimes be a bit of a luxury because that's a little bit extra money that you have to spend. But it's well worth it. Whether you get a keyboard case or a drum case or whatever, it will protect your investment. It will protect your instrument so that it will give you years of continued service. And when you walk into your gig with all your stuff in cases, it actually makes you look like a real professional. The third point I'm going to touch on today, and this actually relates to the previous point, is work on your sounds and work on your tone. So for example, if you're a guitar player, when you're at home practicing, make sure that you take the time to, you know, work on the sound of your guitar, right? I don't know how many times I've seen guys come into gigs and they've got pretty good gear and they set it up and they go to play something and all of a sudden it's like, geez, like, you know, that's pretty bassy tone, or it's pretty, you know, harsh tone. Make sure you take the time with your instrument and actually get to know it. In other words, take several hours, plug your guitar in, fool around with the settings so you get nice pleasant, ear-pleasing tones. Same for keyboard players. You know, you guys buy a big keyboard, it may be expensive. Sit down and have a listen to those tones that are built into it, those sounds, and adjust them if you need to. You working on your sounds will pay off in spades, because if you arrive to a gig and you sound good as well as play good, you're probably going to get hired back again and again and again. The next point I want to make, and it may sound a little bit goofy because you're a musician or a performer, is take some basic business courses. Now, this doesn't have to be, you getting your degree in business. I'm not talking about that. But you know what, there's lots of books that you can pick up or go online, and you can get some understanding about basic business practices and principles. As a musician, you're going to be probably wearing a lot of different hats, especially when you're starting out. You may be acting not only as a player, but you may be acting as a manager, an agent, a marketer, etc., etc. So it's actually not a bad idea to know how to do these things, how to manage your time even. How to, maybe you should learn how to get some basic bookkeeping skills behind you. If you become a busy musician, you're going to need to be able to record all those transactions that you get. Money coming in, money going out to spend on gear or whatever else. And you see at the end of the year, as an independent musician or performer, you're going to be able to write off a lot of those expenses. So it's important to know how to organize stuff like that. And a basic business course will actually show you how to do that. Point number 5, keep your word. In other words, what you're going to do is you are going to do what you say you are going to do. So whether it's a gig or a session or an appointment for a lesson, you are going to be there. You're going to fulfill the task that you need to fulfill. It shows a lot of integrity, right? You're going to keep your word. This also pertains to, say you want to leave the band you're currently in, and they have gigs already booked a few months out. Keeping your word means, I'm going to stay with you guys to fulfill the gigs that are already booked, or until you find a replacement. That's integrity, and that's keeping your word. You know, it's a healthy thing to have a good self-image. But this brings me to my next point, point 6, which is park your ego at the door. And what I mean by this is, no matter how good you are, you should always have an element of humility to yourself. What others don't care for are people who think that they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. Let me let you in on a little bit of information. You are not the greatest thing since sliced bread. And there's always going to be somebody out there who's a little bit better than you. You shouldn't think that people should bow down and worship you. That's a bad idea. So, all I mean by this point is when you go into a rehearsal, when you go into a gig, a performance, whatever it may be, just remember who you are. Just remember, your goal is to be able to work with others well and not treat them like peons. The next point I want to talk about is to make sure that you are always in a constant state of learning. What I mean by this is, a constant state of learning is to make sure that you are kind of constantly improving yourself, constantly gathering more knowledge, whether it be taking a lesson for your instrument, whether it be you're a keyboard player and you're reading up on the newest patches. If you're a guitar player, you're reading up on the newest foot pedals or gear, new techniques. Also, like I said in a previous comment, make sure that you're learning other stuff in the music industry. not just playing your guitar, playing the drums, but things like marketing and business acumen and management skills. Even learn a bit about live sound applications or recording in the studio. In doing this, you're going to become a more well-rounded musician, and people will want to work with you. The next 2 points, number 8 and number 9, I'm going to kind of combine, but I'm going to talk about them individually too. Point 8 is watch your mouth and respect others. And point 9 is reputation is everything. You know, years ago I was speaking with an associate of mine, and he said to me, "Bruce, reputation is everything." And he's right. If you're out there in your circle of musician friends working, and you're constantly complaining or talking about others in a negative way, eventually that negativity will come back and stick to you. You don't want to be known as someone who's out there talking bad about people. Even if you don't like people, try and have a positive attitude and try and speak as well as you can about people. This will actually garner you some respect, and people will want to work with you. And that's kind of the whole point of it. You want to have a good reputation in the industry. Well, thanks for joining me today. Be sure and check out part 2 of tips for how to be a successful musician. If you got something out of today's video, give us a big thumbs up down below. And don't be afraid to smack that subscribe button, as well as hit that little bell beside it so you get a notification every time we put out a new video. Also, if you have a comment or suggestion about possibly a product that you'd like to see us review or a topic that you'd like to see us cover, please leave a comment down below as well, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Once again, I'm Bruce for Blackboard Rules, and we'll see you in the next video. So let's chop our way to that outro, please.